Yeah, welcome to 104.5. This is 104.5 Hebrew Radio, Friday morning edition, man. Joseph, we're continuing the story of Joseph. He's now in Egypt. He wound up in prison. He finds favor in prison. He interprets dreams, and he winds up coming out to interpret Pharaoh's dream. And when he does so, the Most High shows him favor, makes him ruler over all the land of Egypt. And we're going to pick up the story right around that area right there. But to recap, Joseph he withstood all the wiles of the devil, trying to get him to commit sin against the Most High. And Joseph wouldn't do it. The Most High, Joseph endured until the end. And every temptation that he was met with, he endured. He stayed with the Most High. He trusted that God would bring him through. All praise to the Most High, man. All praise to the Most High. When you think you by yourself, when you think nobody else is around, the Most High has your back. He has your back, man. All praise, man. So we will pick up the story. We welcome you, man. We welcome you to this Friday morning edition of Hebrew Radio, the Hebrew Man Morning Show. All praise to the Most High. I put this beat together last night about between 12 and 1 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, man. Yeah, man. All praise the Most High.
You boy, you over there. This is a happy song. But just any song.
This was for the Most High, in the name of Yeshua. This was for a higher, in the name of Yeshua. Oh, praise a higher, a sure, a higher. And
This was for a higher, in the name of Yeshua, in the name of Yeshua. This is for a higher, it's for a higher, in the name of Yeshua, in the name of Yeshua. This is for a higher, it's for a higher. Good morning, my sister. Shalom, shalom, my sister. Shalom. All praise to the Most High, my brothers and sisters. Good morning, good morning, man. This was for a higher, in the name of Yeshua.
a higher higher frequency from the dirt. We've been made from the earth. Adam and Eve, Satan deceived, believing you will achieve a higher. In the name of Yeshua, this one's for a higher. In the name of Yeshua, Holy Spirit, she's bringing wisdom today. Daniel chapter 12.
This is for a higher, in the name of Yeshua, the name of Yeshua. This is for a higher, in the name of Yeshua, the name of this is for a higher, it's for a higher, in the name of Yeshua. This is for a higher, in the name of Yeshua.
Seal up the words, seal up the words. Seal the book, Daniel, till the last days. The knowledge shall be increased higher. In the name of Yeshua, our Father, higher, short, higher, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom will come, and thy will be done in all the earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day, Father, our daily bread.
This is for a higher, it's for a higher, in the name of Yeshua, the name of Yeshua. This is for a higher, it's for a higher, in the name of Yeshua, the name of Yeshua. This is for a higher, in the name of Yeshua, it's for a higher. This is for a higher, it's for a higher, in the name of Yeshua.
Fruit of the Spirit is love. Fruit of the Spirit is love. Fruit of the Spirit is love, peace, joy, meekness, temperance. Why we all can't get along? 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 Why we all can't get along?
We're going to continue with the story of Joseph, amen. All praise. Good morning, my brother. Good morning, my good morning. Good morning. Oh, praise, man.
The fruit of the Spirit is love. The fruit of the Spirit is love. The fruit of the Spirit is love, peace, joy, meekness, temperance. Why we all can't get along? Why we all can't get along? Fruit of the Spirit is love. Why we all can't get along? Why we all can't get along? Fruit of the Spirit is love. Why we all can't get along? Why we all can't get along? Fruit of the Spirit is love. Why we all can't get along? Why we all can't get along? Temperance. Fruit of the Spirit is love.
Yeah, man, the fruit of the Spirit is love.
Fruit of the Spirit is love, peace, joy, meekness, temperance. Why we all can't get along? Why we all can't get along? Fruit of the Spirit is love. Why we all can't get along? Why we all can't get along? Fruit of the Spirit is love. Why we all can't get along? Why we all can't get along? Fruit of the Spirit is love. Why we all can't get along? Why we all can't get along? Temperance. Fruit of the Spirit is love. Fruit of the Spirit is love. Fruit of the Spirit is love, peace,
joy, meekness, temperance. Why we all can't get along? 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 Of the Spirit is love. Why we all can't get along? Why we all can't get along? Of the Spirit is love. Why we all can't get along? Why we all can't get along? Of the Spirit is love. Why we all can't get along? Why we all can't get along? Temperance. Why we all can't get along? Why we all can't get along? Of the Spirit is love. Why we all can't get along? Why we all can't get along? Of the Spirit is love. Why we all can't get along? Why we all can't get along? Of the Spirit is love. Why we all can't get along? Why we all can't get along? Temperance. Yeah, man, the fruit of the Spirit is love. And why we all can't get along. Even in good times, man, it seems like people like that evil spirit is out there just trying to cause divisiveness. Anywhere it can cause divisiveness. Even in the midst of joy, man, in the midst of beautiful joy, somebody will find something to look at and point at and say, I don't like that. You know what I'm saying? To start some kind of contention, man. Man, why we just all can't get along, man? I mean, we ain't got to believe, everybody don't have to believe exactly the same thing. But we could at least get along. You understand? We don't have to be warring at each other at all times. We could at least get along. And we're gonna move ahead in the story of Joseph. Joseph has just dealt with Potiphar's wife. Finds himself in prison. He gets in prison, and he starts to find favor in prison by the prison guards. And he's in these guys, these butlers who attended to Pharaoh. But that didn't find favor in Pharaoh's sight anymore. And Pharaoh threw the butlers in the prison. And they run across Joseph. And they have dreams, and Joseph interpret these dreams for these men. And they were astonished by his ability to call right through the power of the Most High what people were dreaming, man. You know what I'm saying? And Joseph is brought before Pharaoh for this very reason. This is what the Most High, Joseph is going through all of this to get to where he's going, to get to this point here. I'm gonna turn this down a little bit. I got trying to. But he's going through all of this to get to this point. And the Most High is bringing him through, testing him, refining him through fire, making him, showing him that he has to endure, to just keep his word, and everything will be all right. Keep his commandments and everything will be all right. And this is Genesis chapter 41, verse 1. And it came to pass at the end of 2 full years that Pharaoh dreamed, and behold, he stood by the river, and behold, there came up out of the river 7 well-favored kine, and fattish, and they fed in the meadow. And behold, 7 other kine came up after them out of the river, ill-favored and lean-fleshed, and stood by the other kind upon the brink of the river. And the ill-favored and lean-fleshed kind did eat up the 7 well-favored and fat kind. So Pharaoh awoke, and he slept and dreamed the second time. And behold, 7 ears of corn came up upon one stalk, rank and good. And behold, 7 thin ears, as blasted with the east wind, sprung up after them. And the 7 thin ears devoured the 7 rank and full ears. And Pharaoh awoke, and behold, it was a dream. And it came to pass in the morning that his spirit was troubled, and he sent and called for all the magicians of Egypt and all the wise men thereof, and thereof. And Pharaoh told them his dream, but there was none that could interpret them unto Pharaoh. And then spake the chief butler unto Pharaoh, saying, I do remember my faults this day. Pharaoh was wroth with his servant, and put me in the ward in the captain of the guard's house, both me and the chief baker. And when we dreamed a dream in one night, I and he, we dreamed each man according to the interpretation of his dream. And there was there with us a young man, an Hebrew, servant to the captain of the guard. And we told him, and he interpreted to us our dream. To each man according to his dream, he did interpret. And it came to pass, as he interpreted to us, so it was. Me, he restored unto me my office, and to him he hanged. And Pharaoh sent and called Joseph, and they brought Joseph in hastily out of the dungeon. And he shaved himself, and he changed his raiment, and came into Pharaoh. And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, I have dreamed the dream, and there is none that can interpret it. And I have heard say unto thee that thou can interpret, can understand a dream to interpret it. And Joseph answered Pharaoh, saying, it is not in me. God shall give Pharaoh an answer of peace. And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, in my dream, behold, I stood upon the bank of the river, and behold, there came out of the river 7 kinds, fat-fleshed, and well-favored, and they fed in the middle. And behold, 7 other kinds came up after them, poor and very ill-favored, and lean-fleshed, such as I never saw in the land of Egypt for badness. And the lean and the ill-favored kind did eat up the first 7 fat kinds. And when they had eaten them up, it could not be known that they had eaten them. But there was still ill-favored, as at the beginning. So I awoke, and I saw in my dream, and behold, 7 ears came up in one stalk, full and good. And behold, 7 ears withered thin, and blasted with the east wind, sprung up after them. And the thin ears devoured the 7 good ears. And I behold this unto the and I told this unto the magicians, but there was none that could declare it unto me. And Joseph said unto Pharaoh, the dream of Pharaoh is one. God has answered Pharaoh that he is about what he is about to do. Now we're going to move from this part right here. This is Genesis, right here, the 41st chapter. And I want to go into the book of Jasher and give you a kind of more complete story. Like I said, the Bible is all truth. The Bible is true, but the Bible is an overview. And we're going to pick up in verse 40, book of Jasher, 48 and 40. 48 and 40. And the king ordered his servants to bring Joseph before him. And the king said unto them, go to him, and do not terrify him, lest he be confused and would not know to speak properly. And the servants of the king went to Joseph, and they brought him hastily out of the dungeon. And the king's servants shaved him, and he changed his prison garments, and he came before the king. And the king was sitting upon the royal throne in the princely dress, girded around with gold ephod, and the fine gold which was upon it sparkled, and the carbuncle, and the ruby, and the emerald, together with all the precious stones that were upon the king's head, dazzled the eyes. And Joseph wondered greatly at the king. And the throne was upon which the king sat was covered with gold and silver and with onyx stone, and it had 70 steps. And it was their custom throughout the land of Egypt that every man who came to speak to the king, if he was a prince or one of that was esteemed in the sight of the king, he ascended to the king's throne as far as the 31st step, and the king would descend to the 31st step and speak with him. And if he was one of the common people, he ascended to the third step. This is where you see that I have classes. They've been having classes amongst people all the way back to them. They get to ascend to the third step, and the king descended to the fourth step and speak with him. And their custom was, moreover, that any man who understood to speak in all the 70 languages, he ascended to the 70th step, and he went up and spoke till he reached to the king. And any man who could not complete days in Egypt, that no one should reign over them, but who understood to speak in the 70 languages. And when Joseph came before the king, he bowed down to the ground before the king, and he ascended to the third step. And the king sat up upon the fourth step and spoke with Joseph. And the king said unto Joseph, I dreamed the dream, and there is no interpreter to interpret it properly. And I commanded this day that all the magicians of Egypt and the wise men thereof should come before me. And I related my dream to them, and no one has the proper interpretation. No one has the proper interpreted them to me. And after this day, I heard concerning thee that thou art a wise man and canst correctly interpret every dream that thou hast heard. And Joseph answered Pharaoh, saying, let Pharaoh relate his dream that he dreamed. Surely the interpretation belonged to God. And Pharaoh related his dream to Joseph, the dream of the kine and the dream of the ear of corn. And the king left off speaking. And Joseph was then clothed with the Spirit of God before the king. He knew all the things that would befall the king from that day forward. And he knew the proper interpretation of the king's dream. And he spoke before the king. And Joseph found favor in the sight of the king. And the king inclined his ear and his heart and heard all the words of Joseph. And Joseph said unto the king, do not imagine that they are two dreams, for it is only one dream. For that which God has chosen to do throughout the land, he has shown the king in his dream. And this is the proper interpretation of thy dream. The seven kinds and ears of corn are 7 years. The seven bad kinds and ears of corn are also 7 years. It is one dream. Behold, the 7 years that are coming, there will be a great plenty throughout the land. And after that 7 years, a famine will follow them, a very grievous famine. And all the plenteous will be forgotten from the land, and the famine will consume the inhabitants of the land. The king dreamed one dream, and the dream was therefore repeated at Pharaoh, because the thing is established by God, and God will shortly bring it to pass. Now therefore, I will give thee counsel and deliver thy soul and the souls of the inhabitants of the land from the evil of their famine, that thou seek throughout the kingdom for a man very discreet and wise, who knoweth all the affairs of the government, and appoint him to superintend over the land of Egypt. And let the man whom thou placest over Egypt appoint officers under him, that they gather in all the food of the good years that are coming, and let them lay up corn and deposit it in the appointed store. And let them keep the food for 7 years of famine, that it may be found for thee and thy people and thy whole land, that thou and thy land be not cut off by the famine. Let all the inhabitants of the land be also ordered, that they gather in, every man, the produce of his field, of all sorts of goods during the 7 good years, and that they place it in their store, that it may be found for them in the day of the famine, that they may live upon it. This is the proper interpretation of thy dream, and this is the counsel given to save. Listen what it says. So shall it be, what as it was in the beginning, so shall it be in the end. He said, this is the proper interpretation of thy dream, and this is the counsel given to save thy soul and the souls of all thy subjects. The Most High is using Joseph to save souls here. And the king answered and said unto Joseph, who said unto who said, and who knoweth that thy words are correct? And he said unto the king, this shall be a sign of thee, respecting all my words, that they are true, and that my advice is good for thee. Behold, thy wife sitteth this day upon the stool of delivery, and she will bear thee a son, and thou wilt rejoice with him. When thy child shall have gone forth from his mother's womb, thy firstborn son that has been born thee 2 years back shall die, and thou wilt be comforted in the child that will be born unto thee this day. And Joseph finished speaking these words to the king, and he bowed down to the king, and he went out. And when Joseph had gone from the king's presence, those signs which Joseph had spoken unto the king came to pass, one on that day. And the queen bare a son on that day, and the king heard the glad tidings about his son, and he rejoiced. And when the report had gone forth from the king's presence, the king's servant found the firstborn son of the king, fallen dead upon the ground. And there was great lamentation and noise in the king's house. And the king heard it, and he said, what is this noise and lamentation that I have heard in the house? And they told the king that the firstborn son had died. And the king knew that all Joseph's words that he had spoken were correct. And the king was consoled for his son by the child that was born to him on that day, as Joseph had spoken. All these things, the king, after these things, the king sent and assembled all the officers and servants and all the prince and nobles belonging to the king. And they all came forth before the king. And the king said unto him, behold, you have seen and heard all the words of this Hebrew man. All praise to the Most High. You have heard all the words of this Hebrew man on Hebrew radio, the Hebrew Man Morning Show. Nah. And all the signs which he declared will come to pass. And not any of his words have fallen to the ground. You that he has given a proper interpretation of the dream, and it will surely come to pass. Now therefore take counsel, and know what you will do, and how the land will be delivered from the famine. Most High using Joseph to give deliverance, to save souls and give deliverance. See now, and see whether the light can be found, in whose heart there is wisdom and knowledge, and I will appoint him over the land. For you have heard what the Hebrew man has advised concerning this, to save the land therewith from the famine. And I know that the land will not be delivered from the famine, but with the advice of the Hebrew man, whom had advised him. And they all answered the king and said, the counsel which the Hebrew has given concerning this is good. Now therefore, our Lord and King, behold, the whole land is in thy hand. Do that which seem good in thy sight. Him whom thou choose, and him who thou and whom thou is thy wisdom knoweth, to be wise and capable of delivering the land, which with his wisdom. And him shall the king appoint to be under him over the land. And the king said to all his officers, I have thought that since God has made known To the Hebrew man, all that has been spoken, there is none who discreet and wise in the whole land as he is. And it seems good in your sight, I will place him over the land, for he will save the land with his wisdom, saving souls, deliverance, and now he's saving the land. All praise to the Most High. And all the officers answered the king, said, but surely it is written in the law of Egypt, and it shall not be violated, that no man shall reign over Egypt, nor be the second to the king, but one who has the knowledge in all language of the sons of men. So there was 70 languages spoken in those days, 70 languages, and that's deep. Let me not leave from where I'm at. Now therefore our Lord and King, behold, this Hebrew man can only speak the Hebrew language, and how then can he be over us, the second under government, a man who cannot even know our language? Now we pray thee to send for him, and let him come before thee, and prove in all things, and do all this, do as thou see fit. And the king said, it shall be done tomorrow, and the thing that you have spoken is good. And all the officers came that day before the king. And on the night the Lord sent one of his ministering angels, and he came into the land of Egypt unto Joseph. And the angel of the Lord stood over Joseph. And behold, Joseph was lying in the bed at night in the master's house in the dungeon, for his master had put him back into the dungeon on the account of his wife. And the angel roused him up from his sleep. And Joseph rose up and stood upon his legs. And behold, the angel of the Lord was standing opposite to him. And the angel of the Lord spoke with Joseph. And he taught him all the languages of men in that night. And he called his name Jessup. And he called the Lord. And when the angel of the Lord went from him, and Joseph returned and laid in his bed, and Joseph was astonished at the vision which he saw. And it came to pass in the morning that the king sent for all his servants, all his officers and servants, and they all came and sat before the king. And the king ordered Joseph to be brought, and the king's servant went and brought Joseph before Pharaoh. And the king came forth and ascended to the step of the throne. And Joseph spoke unto the king in all the languages. And Joseph went up to him and spoke unto the king until he arrived before the king in the 70th step. And he sat before the king. And the king greatly rejoiced on the account of Joseph. And all the king officers rejoiced greatly with the king when they heard all the words of Joseph. And the thing seemed good in the sight of the king and the officer to appoint Joseph to be the second to the king over all the land of Egypt. And the king spoke, saying, Now know thou this, give me counsel to appoint a wise man over the land of Egypt, in order with his wisdom to save the land from the famine. Now therefore, since God has made all his known to thee, and all the words which thou hast spoken, there is not throughout the land a discreet and wise man like unto thee. And thy name no more shall be called Joseph, but Sephanah shall be thy name. Thou shalt be second to me. They always rename. When they accept you in, you got to assimilate and be named under their name. And according to thy words shall be all the affairs of my government, and all the words shall my people go out and come in. Also, from under thy hand shall my servants and officers receive their salary, which is given to them monthly. And to thee shall all the people of the land bow down. This is that dream that Joseph was showing. Everybody was going to bow. To all the people of the land bow down. Only in my throne will I be greater than thou. And the king took off his ring from his hand and put it upon the hand of Joseph. And the king dressed Joseph in princely garment, and he put a golden crown upon his head, and he put the golden chain upon his neck. And the king commanded, all praise to the Most High. Man, that's what Egypt is doing to our brothers and sisters now. To get them to accept their ways and to do and to bow down to them and do for them, they give them the golden chain and promise them a golden crown, a carnal crown and a carnal chain, not a heavenly crown. That same chain, that same rope that drag us down into slavery. All praise to the Most High. And the king commanded his servant that they made him ride in the second chariot belonging to the king. That when opposite the king's chariot, he caused him to ride upon a great and strong horse from the king's horses, and to be conducted throughout the streets of the land of Egypt. They said, go parade him out there. Go show Egypt who they got to bow down to. And the king commanded, all praise to the Most High. And the king commanded that all those that played upon the timbrels and harps and other musical instruments should go forth with Joseph, 1,000 timbrels and 1,000 mechalots and 1,000 nebulums went after him, and 5,000 men with drawn swords glittering in their hand, and they went marching and playing before Joseph. And 20,000 of the great men of the kings, girded with girdles of the skin covered with gold, marched at the right hand of Joseph, and 20,000 at his left hand. All the women and damsels went upon the roof and stood in the street, playing and rejoicing at Joseph, and gazed at the appearance of Joseph and his beauty. And the king's people went before him and behind him, perfuming the road with frankincense and with chiastic. This word killing me, boy. And with all sorts of fine perfume, and scattered myrrh and aloe along the road. 20 men proclaiming these words before him throughout the land with a loud voice. Do you see this man whom the king has chosen to be second? All the affairs of government shall be regulated by him. And he has transgressed, and he that transgressed in his order or does not bow down before him to the ground shall die, for he rebelled against the king and his second. And when the harlots had ceased proclaiming, all the people of Egypt bowed down to the ground before Joseph and said, may the king live, and also his second live. And all the inhabitants of Egypt bowed down along the road. And when the herald approached them, they bowed down, and they rejoiced with all sorts of timbrels, mechalots, and nabal before Joseph. And Joseph, upon his horse, lifted up his eyes to heaven, and called out and said, he raised the poor man from the dust. He lifted up the needy from the dunghill. O Lord of hosts, happy is the man who trusted in thee. And Joseph passed through the land of Egypt with Pharaoh's servants and officers, and they showed him the whole land of Egypt and all the king's treasure. And Joseph returned and came that day before Pharaoh, and the king gave unto Joseph a possession in the land of Egypt, a possession of fields and vineyards. And the king gave unto Joseph 3,000 talents of silver, 1,000 talents of gold, and onyx stone, and doubloons, and many gifts. And on the next day, the king commanded all the people of Egypt to bring unto Joseph offerings and gifts, that he be. This is what they did to Christ. This is mirroring Christ's life. And all the next day the king commanded that all the people of Egypt bring unto Joseph offerings and gifts, that he that violate the command of the king should die. That they made a high place in the secret in the streets of the city, and they spread out garments there, and whosoever brought anything to Joseph put it in the high place. And all the people of Egypt cast something into the high place. One man a gold earring, the other rings and earrings, different vessels and gold and silver works, and onyx stones and doubloons. Uh, 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 did he cast upon the high place? Everyone cast something of what he possessed. And Joseph took all these and placed them in his treasure. And all the officers and nobles belonging to the king exalted Joseph, and they gave him many gifts, seeing that the king had chosen him to be his second. And the king sent to Potiphar, the son of Ahiram, the priest, on, and he took his young daughter Asna and gave it to Joseph for wife. And the damsel was very comely, a virgin, whom man had not known. Why would it say, is this that show you that a virgin, the definition of virgin, is not a woman that has not slept with a man? Because look what it says. The damsel was very comely, a virgin. If she a virgin, this next statement don't need to be read. One whom man had not known. So it has nothing to do with whether she known a man or not. The word virgin is a woman who has come into, she's a damsel or a virgin who has come into her flowers. Then she is known as a virgin. It doesn't have nothing to do with whether she's been known by a man or not. Because you can read where it says this virgin and her husband. That means to be a husband, you have to consummate. That means she's been known by a man, but they still calling her a virgin. The damsel was very comely, a virgin, one whom man had not known. And Joseph took her for a wife. And the king said unto Joseph, I am Pharaoh, and besides thee none shall dare to lift up his hand or his foot to regulate my people throughout the land of Egypt. And Joseph was 30 years old when he stood before Pharaoh. And Joseph went out from before the king, and he became the king's second in Egypt. And the king gave Joseph 100 servants to attend to him in his house. And Joseph also sent uh, uh, and purchased many servants, and they remained in the house of Joseph. And Joseph built for himself a very magnificent house, like unto the house of the king, before the court of the king's palace. And he made his house a large temple, very elegant in appearance and convenient for his residence. 3 years was Joseph in erecting his house. And Joseph made upon himself a very elegant throne, an abundance of gold and silver, and he covered it with onyx stone and the bloom. And he made upon him the likeness of the whole land of Egypt, and the likeness of the river of Egypt was to water it, the whole land of Egypt. And Joseph sat secretly upon his throne in his house, and the Lord increased Joseph's wisdom. And all the inhabitants of Egypt and Pharaoh, servants of his princes, loved Joseph exceedingly, for this thing was from the Lord to Joseph. And Joseph had an army that made war, going out in hosts of troops, to number of 40,600 men, capable of bearing arms to assist the king and Joseph against any enemy, besides the king's officers, his servants and inhabitants of Egypt without number. And Joseph gave unto him his mighty men to all the hosts shields and javelins and caps and coats of mail and stones for slain. This is Joseph coming into his own, being despised, hated, thrown into the pit, thrown into the dungeon, thrown away unjustly because the Most High was dealing with it. And the Most High setting him on the throne, setting him up to show him that the dream I showed you in the beginning, that the 11 stars, the sun and the moon, will all bow down to you. And it came to pass. This is Book of Jasher, chapter 50. At that time, the children of Tarshish came against the sons of Ishmael and made war with them. And the children of Tarshish spoiled the Ishmaelites for a long time. And the children of Ishmael were very small in number in those days, that they could not prevail over the children of Tarshish, and they were sorely oppressed. Then the old men of Ishmael sent a record to the king of Egypt, saying, I send, pray thee, unto thy servant, officers and hosts, to help us to fight against the children of Tarshish. For we have become consumed away for a long time. And Pharaoh sent Joseph with the mighty men and hosts which were with him, and also his mighty men from the king's house. And they went to the land of Havilah, to the children of Ishmael, to assist them against the children of Tarshish. And the children of Ishmael fought with the children of Tarshish, and Joseph smote the Tarshites, and he subdued all their land, and the children of Israel dwell therein unto this day. And when the land of Tarshish was subdued, and all the Tarshites ran away, and came unto the borders of the brethren of the children of Javan, and Joseph with all his mighty men and hosts returned to Egypt, not one man of them missing. That's the favor of the Most High. And the revolution of a year, in the second year of Joseph's reign over Egypt, the Lord gave great plenty throughout the land for 7 years, as Joseph had spoken. For the Lord blessed all the produce of the earth in those days for 7 years, and they ate and were greatly satisfied. And Joseph at that time had officers under him, and they collected all the food of the goods of years, and heaps of corn year by year, and placed it in the treasury of Joseph. And at any time when they gathered the food, Joseph commanded that they should bring the corn in the ear, and also bring with them some of the soil of the field, that it should be not spoiled. And Joseph did according to this year after year, and heaped upon corn like sand of the sea for abundance. For his storehouse was immense, and could not be numbered for abundance. And all the inhabitants of Egypt gathered all sorts of food in their storehouse in great abundance during the 7 good years. But they did not do unto as Joseph did. And all the food which Joseph and the Egyptian had gathered during the 7 years of plenty was secured for the land and store for the 7 years of famine, for the support of the whole land. And the inhabitants of Egypt filled each man his stores, and he concealed in concealed places with corn to be supported during the famine. And Joseph placed all the food that he had gathered in all the cities of Egypt, and he closed all the stores and placed sentinels over them. And Joseph's wife, Asna, the daughter of Potiphar, the Potiphar bare with him 2 sons. Joseph, his wife Asna's daughter of Potiphar, bare him 2 sons, Manasseh and Ephraim. And Joseph was 34 years old when he begot them. And the lad grew up, and they went in the ways and in the instruction. They did not deviate from the way which their father taught them, ate to the right, either to the right or to the left. And the Lord was with the lad, and they grew up and had understanding and skill in all wisdom and in all affairs of government. And all the king's officers and his great men of the inhabitants of Egypt exalted the lads, and they were brought up amongst the king's children. And the 7 years of plenty that were throughout the land were at the end, and the 7 years of famine came after them, as Joseph had spoken, and the famine was throughout the land. And all the people of Egypt saw that the famine had commenced in the land of Egypt, and all the people of Egypt opened their stores of corn, for the famine prevailed over them. And they found all the food that was in their stores for full of vermin and not fit to eat. And the famine prevailed throughout the land. And all the inhabitants of Egypt came and cried before Pharaoh, for the famine was heavy upon them. And they said to Pharaoh, give food unto thy servants, and wherefore shall we die through hunger before thy eyes, even we and our little ones? And Pharaoh answered them, saying, and wherefore do you cry unto me? Did not Joseph command that the corn should be laid up during the 7 years of plenty, for the years of the famine? Wherefore did you not hearken to his voice? And the people of Egypt answered the king, saying, as thy soul liveth, O Lord, thy servants have done all that Joseph ordered. For thy servants also gather in all the produce of their field during the 7 years of plenty, and laid it in a storehouse unto this day. And when the famine prevailed over thy servant, we opened our storehouses, and behold, all our produce was filled with vermin, and was not fit for food. And when the king heard all that had befallen the inhabitants of Egypt, the king was greatly afraid on the account of the famine, and he was much terrified. And the king answered the people of Egypt, saying, since all this has happened unto you, go unto Joseph, do whatever he shall say unto you, transgress not his counsel. And all the people of Egypt went forth and came unto Joseph, and said unto him, give unto us food, and wherefore we should die through hunger. For we gathered our produce during the 7 years, as thou didst command, and we put it in the storehouse, and thus had befallen us. And Joseph heard all these words of the people of Egypt, and what had befallen them. Joseph opened all his storehouses of the produce, and he sold it unto the people of Egypt. And the famine prevailed throughout the land, and the famine was in all countries, but in the land of Egypt there was produce for sale. And all the inhabitants of Egypt came unto Joseph to buy corn, for the famine prevailed over all of them, and all the corn was spoiled. And Joseph daily sold it, to all the people of Egypt, and all the inhabitants of the land of Canaan, and the Philistines, and those beyond the Jordan, and the children of the east, and all the cities and lands far and nigh, heard that there was corn in Egypt, and they all came to Egypt to buy corn, for the famine prevailed over them. And Joseph opened the stores of corn, and placed officers over them, and they daily stood and sold to all that came. And Joseph knew that his brethren also would come to Egypt to buy corn, for the famine prevailed throughout the earth. And Joseph commanded all the people that they should cause it to be proclaimed throughout the land of Egypt, saying, it is the pleasure of the king and of his second of their great men, that any person who wishes to buy corn in Egypt shall not send his servant to Egypt to purchase it, but his son, and also the Egyptians and the Canaanites. And who shall come any of the stores from to buy in corn, Egypt, and shall go and hold me back up. It is the pleasure of the king and his second of their great men, and that any person who wish to buy corn in Egypt shall not send his servant to Egypt to purchase, but his son, and also any Egyptian or Canaanite who shall come from any of the stores from buying in corn in Egypt shall go and sell it throughout the land. He shall die, for no one shall buy but for the support of his household. He's saying if you buy extra and you go out and try to sell to anybody else, you're gonna be put to death for that. Because Joseph is drawing his brothers in. Any man leading 2 or 3 beasts shall die, for a man shall only lead his own beast. And Joseph placed sentinels at all the gates of Egypt, and commanded them, saying, any person who may come to buy corn, suffer him not to enter until his name and the name of his father and the name of his father's father be written down. Whatsoever is written down day by day, send their names unto me in the evening, that I may know their name. So Joseph, knowing the famine is out there, my father is out there, my brothers and my are out there, they got to come to Egypt. They got to come to Egypt to get corn and wine. So he's setting it up. He know they coming. So he and the name of their father. And each evening, those sentinels, those officers had to bring those names to Joseph. So Joseph knew when his brothers entered into the city. See how long we've been going here. Oh, we got time. All praise to the Most High. And Joseph placed officers throughout the land of Egypt, and he commanded them all to do these things. And Joseph did all these things and made these statutes in order that he might know when his brethren should come to Egypt by corn. And Joseph's people caused it daily to be proclaimed in Egypt according to these words and statutes which Joseph commanded. And all the inhabitants of the east and west country and all of the earth heard all of the statutes and regulations which Joseph had enacted in Egypt. And the inhabitants of the extreme parts of the earth came, and they brought corn in Egypt day after day. And when they went away, and all the officers of Egypt did as Joseph had commanded, came to Egypt to buy corn to the gatekeepers, who would write their names and their father's name, and daily bring them in the evening before Joseph. And Jacob afterward heard that there was corn in Egypt, and he called unto his sons to go to Egypt to buy corn, for upon them also did the famine prevail. And he called unto his sons, saying, behold, I hear that there is corn in Egypt, and all the people of the earth go there to purchase. Now therefore, why wilt thou show thyself satisfied before the whole earth? Go you also down to Egypt, and buy us a little corn amongst those that come there, that we may not die. And the sons of Jacob hearkened to their father's voice, to the voice of their father. And they rose up and go down to the Egypt in order to buy corn amongst the rest that came there. And Jacob their father commanded them, saying, when you go into the city, do not enter together in one gate on the account of the inhabitants of the land. The sons of Jacob went forth, and they went to Egypt. And the sons of Jacob did all as their father had commanded them. And Jacob did not send Benjamin, for he said, lest an accident might befall him on the road like his brother. And 10 of Jacob's sons went forth. While the sons of Jacob were going on the road, they repented of what they had done to Joseph. They had spoke to each other, saying, we know that our brother Joseph went down to Egypt, and now we will seek him where we go, and we will find him. We will take him from his master for a ransom, and we will not, if he not by force, we will die for him. And the sons of Jacob agreed to do this thing. and strengthened themselves on account of Joseph, to deliver him from the hand of his master. And the sons of Jacob. Like, did you get all of do you get all of this in just the Bible? You don't get all of this. But the Bible is true. I say it's an overview. It's an overview of a large amount of time. So all knowledge is not in the Bible. All truth is not in the Bible, but the Bible is all truth. And the sons of Jacob agreed to do this thing and strengthen themselves on the account of Joseph, to deliver him from the hand of his master. And the sons of Jacob went to Egypt. And when they came near to Egypt, they separated from each other and came through 10 gates of Egypt. And the gatekeeper wrote their names on that date and brought them to Joseph in the evening. And when Joseph read their names from the hand of the gatekeepers of the city, he found that his brethren had entered in at 10 gates of the city. And Joseph at that time commanded that it should be proclaimed throughout the land of Egypt, saying, Go forth, all ye store guards, close all the corn stores, and let only one remain open, that those who come may purchase from it. And all the officers of Joseph did so at that time, and they closed all the stores and could not find them. And Joseph continued to send 16 servants to seek his brother. And they went and spread themselves in the four corners of the city. And the four of the servants went to the house of the harlot, and they found the 10 men there seeking their brother. And those four men took and brought them before him, and they bowed down to him to the ground. And Joseph was sitting upon the throne in his temple, clothed in his princely garments, and upon his head was a large crown of gold around him. And the sons of Jacob saw Joseph and his figure and his comeliness and dignity of countenance was seemed wonderful in their eyes. And they again bowed down to him to the ground. Boy, that dream just keeps showing up. And Joseph saw his brethren and knew them, but they knew him not. For Joseph was very great in their eyes. Therefore they knew him not. And Joseph spoke unto them, saying, From whence comest ye? And they all answered and said, Thy servant has come from the land of Canaan to buy corn, for the famine prevails throughout the earth. And thy servant heard that there was corn in Egypt. So they have come amongst the others comers to buy from their support. And Joseph answered them, saying, If you have come to purchase, as you say, why did you come through 10 gates of the city? It can only be that ye have come to spy out the land. All praise to the Most High. That's verse 22. We're going to pick it up tomorrow at verse 23, because it's about to go down. It's about to really go down between Joseph and his brothers, man. When I read this, man, this gave me I had to understand it, but it gave me a more of an understanding of what Joseph was doing, how the Most High was working, man. How the Most High was working and blessing Joseph and saving his name. He was saving Israel through prospering Joseph, man. He was saving Israel through prospering Joseph. From the whole time, from the very beginning when he first gave him the dream, that dream keeps showing up throughout this whole story, man. All praise to the Most High, man. All praise to the Most High. Because we are about to get into it, man. But this is 104.5 Hebrew Radio. We will be back with you tomorrow morning, man, to bring you the continuation of the story of Joseph. Man, listen, it's going to be great, man. Tomorrow's the Sabbath. We gonna come on tomorrow for the Sabbath, man, and continue the story. All praise to the Most High. If it be God's will. If it be God's will. All praise to the Most High God. of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, our forefathers. Forgive us, Father, for our sinning, our willfully sinning, our unknowingly sinning, our ignorantly sinning. Forgive our forefathers, our foremothers, for their willfully sinning, for their ignorantly sinning, for their unknowingly sinning, for their spiritually sinning, for their idolatry, Father. Forgive us, Father. Forgive our children for their sinning, for their willfully sinning, for their unknowingly sinning, for their ignorantly sinning, for their idolatry, for their spiritually sinning. Forgive us, Father, and draw us nearer and nearer to your will, your way, and your word. And put your purpose in our heart, as you did your servant Joseph, that we may be vessels to save our brothers and sisters. Bring them to the knowledge of the truth that is in your word, that is passed over by most and disregarded by most. But, oh Father, thy servants seek thy word and thy presence. Give us, Father, your spirit, newly, daily, each day. Give us new spirit to do your will, to do your way, and to walk your word, Father, as you did Christ. Bless us, Father. Bless us. Bless us in the mighty name of your Son, Yeshua, who is our Savior, who you have sent to bear his cross. And as we bear our cross, Father, we ask that you give us strength to endure to the end. For your words are magnified in our spirit. And it's your will that we must do. All praise the Most High God of the Bible, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. All praise you, Father, for all your blessings, for all your blessings, for all your blessings, Father. I praise you in the good times. I praise you in the bad times. I praise you in my pain. I thank you for my new grandbaby, Father. Another blessing. And if you give me no more blessings, Father, I thank you. You have done enough. Strengthen me, oh Father, and let me endure to the end. Let me be one of the lights that shine upon the hill towards Zion. Help us, Father. Help us this day to do your will, Father, to be righteous in your sight. Not to worry about being righteous in man's sight, but to be righteous in your sight. Give us strength, oh Father. Stand us firmly. Shod our feet. Give us the breastplate of righteousness and the crown upon our head in that day, oh Father. We want to do your will here. It is your servant, oh Father, saying, forgive me for my iniquity. Draw me near and near to your will, your way, and your word. Oh Father, thy presence is what I seek. Thy kingdom, oh Father, let it be done here on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, Father, and forgive us our trespasses. Forgive us, Father, forgive us, for we know not what we do. All praise the Most High God of the Bible. Y'all have a wonderful day, man. Y'all have a wonderful day, man. Yeah. Listen, don't let me become your enemy. Because we tell the truth. Because we read the truth to you and tell you the truth, man. The words we're getting for the Most Higher, higher. Or we the enemy. Cause we telling the truth. Line upon line, precept upon precept, that's all we do. We telling the truth. We screaming repentance and baptism. The word we get from the Most Higher, higher. And we give them to you. If I hear enemy for telling the truth. If I hear enemy for telling the truth. Have I become your enemy? Because I tell you the truth. If I hear enemy for telling the truth. If I hear enemy for telling the truth. Oh. Y'all have a wonderful day, man. It's been a good day. Hopefully the stream was good. Hopefully the sound was good, man. We will be here tomorrow if the Most High is the same, man. But if Christ turn tonight, man, let it come. All praise to the Most High. Don't fight against your own kingdom, man. Me and you, we tell it the truth.
And you're looking at us like we dirty rags. We all filthy, dirty in his eye. But God says repent and turn to his side. We can't serve God and mammon. We need way more understanding. He changed not, he changed not, and he do not lie. He can't be paid yesterday, today, forever, yes, the most high. And the sun is shining, so why we making God out to be alive? Sunday is the first day, Saturday is the seventh day, the seventh day is the Sabbath day, Genesis 2 and 2 I say. The word we get from the most higher. And we bring them to you. If I your enemy for telling the truth, if I your enemy for telling the truth, have I become your enemy? Because I tell you the truth. If I your enemy for telling the truth, if I your enemy for telling the truth. All praise the Most High, man. All praise the Most High, man. All praise the Most High, man. I tell you the truth. I tell you the truth. All praise the Most High. All praise the Most High. Exodus 20, oh yes indeed, verse 8 through 9 and 10. Isaiah 66, 22 and 23, the Sabbath day forever in the new heaven, in the new earth. Hey, everybody gonna come month to month, week to week, on that Saturday. Am I your enemy because I tell you the truth? I'm only saying the words of God in the book. I'm only repeating the precept line upon line. Not that I come to destroy the law. I am not come to destroy. The word we get from the most higher. Everything in you. If I your enemy for telling the truth. If I your enemy for telling the truth. Have I become your enemy? Because I tell you the truth. If I your enemy for telling the truth. If I your enemy for telling the truth. Oh yeah. Try the spirit, by the spirit, try the spirit, by the spirit. The Most High is not mocked, man. He's not slack on his promise, man. Try the spirit. He is the Most High God. He will always do what he says, man. He is faithful and true. He's not a man that he should lie. He's not a man that he should lie. He'll tell you the truth. And the truth he revealed to us through his word. All praise the Most High, man. The Most High is in his holy temple, man. He's in his holy temple, calling his people to come back home, man. All praise to the Most High. Come to the Most High today, man. It's time to be repent and be baptized again, man. Be baptized under the truth that you know now, man. Be baptized under the spirit of the truth that's coming to you right now, man. Be baptized. Calling these people to come back home. The Most High is in his holy temple. He's right there in the midst, sitting on the throne. Please don't know that Hebrew publicans back at it again. Yeah, man, it's the MC Double R, man. I just come to let you know, man. The Most High is in his holy temple. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, my brother. Heavenly praise. The Most High is in his holy temple. Calling his people to come back home. Yeah, he's calling you back home. The Most High is in his holy temple. Come on home, my children. He's right there in the midst, sitting on the throne. Please don't break my vibe with the Father. And please don't cut my ties with the Son. Cause I'm gonna be walking in the footsteps of Messiah.
until I'm done, until I'm done. Oh, if he's in the holy temple, he's in his holy temple, all of his people, to come back home, he's calling your side to come back home. If he's in the holy temple, the most high's calling you, he's right there in the midst, he's sitting on the throne. This is one of these precepts that the Most High left behind for us, you heard me? This one right here is Malachi 3 and 6. He said, I am the Most High, thy power, and I change not. Oh! We got to give it up for that, you know what I'm saying? Now let's listen to Christ as he said, to come back home. Matthew 5 and 17. Christ said, think not that I've come to destroy the law, all the prophets. I've not come to destroy, but to fulfill. I mean, I came to give you a more full understanding of this word. Oh! I say he is in his holy temple. All praise to the Most High. Come on, give it to me. It is his holy temple. Calling his people to come back home. Come home, my children. Come home. It is his holy temple. Y'all have a wonderful day. All praise to the Most High, man. All praise to the Most High, God of the Bible.